Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
From multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass right there.
We are not going for fame and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast. Oh, welcome back to the Operator Podcast. This is episode 142. I'm once again your host, Robert J. O'Neill. I'm going to be flying solo one more time because I am on the road at a new studio in an undisclosed. It's not disclosed, whatever it is. I'm in a studio I've used before up in the Northeast. Mother Ocean, Cape Cod, I've mentioned it before. If you want to know where great white sharks are, they're up here. They're not going to mess with you because they're your buddies, they're your friends. You're not on the menu. Great white sharks are very polite. Having said that, the water is murky, so if you go to a place called Chatham Bars Inn, that's actually where I got married. Jessica and I got married there many, many years ago. Not many, but anyway, nice to look at. The water's murky, and they're looking for sea lions. The reason I want to attack you is because it's a big burst of energy for them, and they like something with more blubber on it, like a sea lion, and they don't want to waste that energy. That's why it's not cool when I think like in South Africa, when they run the big lures, the big fake sea lions, and the great white use all that energy to go up there and get it. It's not worth their time. You're not worth their time unless you're, on the show, My 600-Pound Life. I would stay out of the water anyway. That's just good business. But yeah, today is episode 142. A lot going on. This day in history is actually quite busy. I'm going to roll that up at the end, and we will talk about that. Current events are kind of fun. Does get political. I got to get into some of that just because it seems like everything to involve the military or law enforcement eventually, because politicians get involved, it can turn political. So some of it's going to have to get like that. But it should be a blast. I want to talk to you about the new sponsor of the show, Brunt Workwear. Founder Eric Gerard grew up blue collar and started Brunt Workwear after his blue collar friends that he was working with in the trades kept saying that the big brands had sold out and they weren't listening to the customers. They hadn't changed in over 100 years. They were more interested in becoming fashion brand instead of like making work boots. So his buddies encouraged him to start a brand built for them. And that's what all products from Brunt are. And they're named after guys that he grew up with. So real blue collar guys, hardworking tradesmen like Sullivan, Perkins, Hawthorne, Marin, just to name a few. Choosing work boots used to mean sacrificing comfort and durability. If they felt good, then they didn't last. If they lasted, then they wrecked your feet. Brunt raised the BS flag, and they built tough boots that are great today from day one. No breaking them in, no sore feet. Real workers shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. You ever break in combat boots? The way we used to do is put them on a pair of dive socks as tight as you can, get in, the salt water, and then walk around until they dry. You can do it in a tub as well, but you don't need to do it with these. These are no doubt the most comfortable work boots that I've ever worn. I love them. And I've worn a few, by the way. They're so comfortable. If these were used in like SEAL training at BUD/S, they would make it easier. They could actually thank this work boot for helping them, get through training. They're that good. And they're comfortable right out of the box, and they perform. Like I said, you don't need to break them in. And a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use code The Operator at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com and use code The Operator, and you're good to go. Brunt isn't just about work boots. They offer a full range of high-performance gear built for the tough jobs. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better, boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use code The Operator checkout. So just head to Workwear.com. Use code the operator and you're good to go. After you order, they'll ask you where you heard. You got to tell them the operator sent you. So go to Brunt, B-R-U-N-T, workwear, oneword.com. Use code the operator and you're good to go. So here we are. It's been a pretty busy week. Don't know if you've been on the World Wide Web, but we've had a little bit of fun on Instagram. I was able to put a post out that was kind of fun. I don't know if you saw it. If you haven't, go check out at Mchooyah, M-C-H-O-O-Y-A-H. It'll be there. It got a little bit of attention, some more likes than I was used to, which is kind of fun because I do like to go through there and interact with you, with the other operators out there, so we can talk about podcasts, get some good ideas, which I have for today, which is always fun. I love to see what you're thinking, and you get the conversation started because if I'm wrong, I'll admit it, usually. But that's where we're at, and I put something out. But along with, you can never tell what's going to go viral. I mean, if you want to go viral at some point, you can say some pretty nasty shit, and you know what it could be, and you're going to go viral for the wrong reasons. What I do on Instagram, it's not, it's fun for me, and so is X. It's mainly just entertainment, and I don't really like to take. It's one of those things where even when I get hate from real people, not from bots, because I've got a ton of those now. It's one of those things where I honestly, I'm more of an optimist than not most of the time. And I don't really think that when people are saying really rude shit to you, they're not necessarily saying it to you. They're more pissed about something you said, and they're yelling at their phone because they're angry about it. And I've noticed that when I do interact with some people that it does change a little bit. Not always, but it does sometimes. But man, I've had some of the bots come out, and it's almost funny. Because it was obviously something to do with the Bin Laden raid, Operation Neptune's Spear, apostrophe S, not Neptune Spear. A lot of people got that wrong. Black Rifle Coffee got it wrong for their Neptune Spear. That was funny, though, because they said their Black Rifle Coffee, I'm not associated with them. I absolutely love those dudes. They did it. I mean, the marketing's awesome. I love all the guys there. But they put out Neptune Spear Coffee. They said they're giving out, it was something, I'm probably going to screw this up. Something along the lines of they're giving out 50 free bags of Neptune Spear Coffee, one for each guy that shot Bin Laden or something like that. Hilarious. I love it. But even, I hate to say it, but even some museums have gotten it wrong. I got one of these, I don't know if it was a bot or a dude. He was calling me a government operative for some reason because I fit the narrative. Because, well, I mean, since the lockdown in 2020 and the mask and COVID, and all the conspiracies, but what we're finding out, especially in Congress and aliens, if the world turns out to be flat, I'm not surprised. But everything's a conspiracy. Osama bin Laden died before Tora Bora, before 9/11, or he died of kidney failure. I've heard that one a lot. He didn't have a dialysis machine. You're not going to believe. Well, some of you will believe me. Some of my new followers will not. He did not have a dialysis machine. That's what we call counterintelligence, because always have more than. There's some podcasts out here that need to listen to what I'm saying right now. Always get multiple sources. Always get multiple. Don't get one. Not just one source, multiple. Because one source, well, we knew in Afghanistan and Pakistan and shit, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, anywhere. The sources are going to get paid. They know it, and they're going to tell you exactly what they need to tell you to get paid this time, but not enough to actually find the person you're looking for so they can get paid next time. So I didn't do this because I'm not that smart. If you watch the Netflix series, Manhunt, about Bin Laden, it's awesome. They actually interview the smart people, which were mostly women that found Bin Laden. And I think a lot of them, I think the agency, shit, I don't know. I am an operative, obviously, but I wasn't there. And I'm a big believer if you're not there at the time, you really don't know what happened. But the dialysis machine was what we call counterintelligence, because if a source comes in and says, hey, I found Bin Laden, for sure, I know it was him because I saw the dialysis machine. Well, they would know they're lying because there is no dialysis machine. But don't tell that to the haters on Instagram. But yeah, the narrative is we killed the body double, or I killed the body double. Someone killed the fucking body double. But the way I say it is, look, I killed a guy that was in bed with Amal bin Laden, in bed with bin Laden's wife. Either way, that guy's going to get shot by someone. It's just I happen to be in the room. But because the narrative is whatever, so to get Barack Obama reelected, which, I mean, if we failed on that mission, he probably wouldn't have gotten elected, which says a lot about that decision that was made, and it was the right thing to do. And I don't think it was political. I really don't. It seemed to be nonpartisan to me. To get bin Laden was just the right thing to do, and we did. And I think it was a good call, but because it was to get, and I don't know which side of the aisle a lot of these people are on. I'm a registered independent, like I've said before, but they honestly believe that there's a huge conspiracy about whatever, man. Like I said, you can believe anything. I did see that happen, and unfortunately, well, in my, not unfortunately, but in my situation, if you're the only person to see something and you can't prove it, whatever. At this point, I'm not going to convince you. The issue, I gave a tweet out because there are podcasts out there and YouTubers out there that just love to bash vets. I talked about it last week. I think it's wrong. I'm not going to get into name. There is a podcast that started shit talking me about 2 years ago, and I like an idiot mentioned their names. And now they got a lot more clicks because I mentioned their names, which is stupid. But now they're like making their living on trashing veterans. And they did bust a guy. I don't want to mention his name ever because I never did work with him. And I take guys at face value. There's really no reason to lie to me. I take guys at face value, but they seem to be trying to call out everyone who has more followers than they do, and they're trying to make a living, not just one podcast, but a couple different dudes, and a couple authors, a couple guys that work for different networks, different papers, different .coms, or some really good outlets, not even news outlets, because, we are at a place where there are different places that aren't your standard news outlets, and they're putting out better stuff. So, but they're jumping on a lot of different bandwagons, and because they bust one guy, they think everyone's busted, which is weird. But, they go after the bin Laden raid because that's just fun to do. But they have one source. That's it. And they got a disgruntled source that told them stuff who has a history of fucking people over. And he was a Navy guy, in the Navy, fucked people over, got out of the Navy, fucked people over who are still in the Navy, from everything from video games to gear, getting it the illegal way. Didn't matter to him because, he's out, fuck them. Goes to Hollywood, fucks them over, leaves there, writes an illegal book, gets sued for like $8.5 million, has to pay it back, guilty. Trying to get the money back, writes another book about a victim he starts a GoFundMe page. Poor me. Now his new thing is, and that's their source. One dude that knows he can get, the communists call these people useful idiots. And it's fun for a while. And then you're wrong. So keep doing what you're doing. Be a useful idiot. It is what it is. But like the newest thing this dude is saying, because whatever. I mean, there were two guys going to bin Laden's room. There were two dudes going up to two. I was one of them, not getting to the other one. No one else was there. So we sort of saw what happened. And I'm not going to get into the rest that happened. It's nice and clean right now. We should keep it that way. But there was a dude that wasn't there that said he was. He was the one who explained it, all this stuff illegal. And there's me, who has never changed the story. So you believe what you want to believe. I'm not going to help. But the new thing is, well, it was a capture mission. Bullshit. It was not a capture mission to go after. But if it's a capture mission, don't send SEAL Team 6. Because I don't give a fuck what the Navy SEAL ethos says. I don't even know who wrote that stupid thing, but a couple guys who missed the war. And look, it's just a timing thing. And that's the history of my life. It's just a timing thing. I'm not sitting here saying I'm a tough guy. Yeah, I made it through the hardest training in the world. I made it through the most difficult selection course in the world to get to SEAL Team 6. I went to the greatest assault team, hostage rescue team in the world. A lot of luck, a little bit of skill, but a great team got me there. But if you want people dead, send SEAL Team 6. If you want them captured, send someone else. I mean, I hear a lot that a lot of other units could have done it. Maybe. Okay. Saddam Hussein was captured. Cool. Bin Laden was dead. We killed him. The ethos was the timing thing. Like I was saying, the ethos, the SEAL ethos, it's not worth the paper it's written on. It's stupid. It's the whole the Gloria standing up, golden aura. I am that man. If you need a coat put down so that woman with a baby can cross the mud, I am that. It's bullshit. I remember reading that ethos. They hung it up outside the shitter at SEAL Team 6 on what we call the second deck. I'm serious. It's a corkboard where they put up like command letterhead and the feelings around and sexual harassment. And the ethos was up there. There was a buddy of mine, and I really want to get him on this podcast. He wrote a kick-ass book called Mob 6. And he was actually the lead jumper to rescue Jessica Buchanan. Kick-ass mission. That was months after the Bin Laden raid. Here's a funny thing about jealousy. I don't want to jump around, but I was fortunate to be on the mountain to rescue the lone survivor in 2005, Marcus Luttrell, which, by the way, some of the guys bashing Marcus Luttrell now, saying he's what I'm not even going to say what they say about him. They weren't even in the fucking army yet, let alone on that mission. Probably have never been to the Korengal Valley or the Shuriak. Maybe they were. I don't know. And if they were, good on them. Like I said, I wasn't there. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you what another veteran did or didn't do. But if you weren't in the Army, pipe down. Because if you go into the top of the mountains, the top of the Gars in the Shuriak or the Korengal in the summertime, and you're alone, scariest environment imaginable, surrounded by people who want to kill you. So, stop name calling until you've been to something, something near that. But I'm just talking about the jealousy. So I was on the mountain. I didn't physically grab Marcus Luttrell. I've told that story before. I'm not going to get into it. I was the lead jumper to rescue Captain Richard Phillips from Somali pirates. I didn't shoot on that one because I tell the truth. I almost burnt my lips on coffee because I was in the chief's mess, new chief. Actually, I know guys that if they burnt their lips on a coffee while the actual snipers were shooting, they probably would have put themselves in for a Purple Heart because that's the way it goes. And then I was on the Bin Laden raid. And I shot Bin Laden. But I was in Afghanistan after the Bin Laden. So what happened after the Bin Laden raid is we went from extreme high, morale was high for most of us, to the worst day imaginable, August 6, 2011, a few months later, where we lost Extortion 17. 31 Americans were killed on that bird, to include Bart the dog. And then we needed to backfill. So I went to Afghanistan with Silver Squadron, because obviously there was some stuff going on in Red Squadron. The team, there was shit going on before we killed Bin Laden. Then we killed Bin Laden, more stuff. Silver Squadron, who's going to back up Gold Squadron, who lost all the guys, needed a team. And by the way, too, that's more shit you hear on the internet that I hear. I hear crap all the time. That the conspiracy theory that Barack Obama had SEAL Team 6 killed to shut him up because the helicopter was shot down. Everyone from the Bin Laden raid is still alive. No one on that helicopter, Extortion 17, was on the Bin Laden raid. They could have done it, yes. The guys on Extortion 17, most of them were the best operators I'd ever met. We cannot back up that level of combat experience. But anyway, that's what you'll read it right now. People will call me a liar because everyone's dead except me, and I'm that government operative who's out here saying Bin Laden's dead, because obviously he's not, because he died of whatever. So I went over there. I am again getting to a point. So the jealousy thing, we're over there, and I forget. I should have looked it up. I forget which day, what the date is when they rescued Jessica Buchanan. But we were watching it on an ISR footage, and you got shit flying overhead. Winds that, well, I've got a lot of jumps. I was a lead jumper, tandem master, bundle master, no big deal. All okay, jump master. I wore this in honor of the Army because they kick ass and they put up with people with big mouths. Watching the ISR footage in the high winds, I watched the guys jump, and I was jealous. I'm like, why the fuck didn't we get this mission? We're overseas. But we've done all these missions before. These guys can do it too. I mean, I was jealous after these. Like, I'm carrying the gun I killed Bin Laden with. He wasn't even the last dude I killed with that gun. I still have the firing pin, by the way. Who wants to have an auction? Anyway, is that? Yeah, well, it was Title 50, not Title 10, so I kept that. But I mean, when we went over to kill Bin Laden a couple days before we launched in May of 2011, Blue Squadron was over there already. They were deployed. Can you imagine getting to a Tier 1 level? And again, I'm not going inter-service. I obviously talk shit, and I'm partial to SEAL Team 6. There are 2 Tier 1 units, and they both kick ass. I want to clear the record because I don't know if you notice, sometimes I talk a lot. Both kick ass units. But Shit, what was the point that I was making? Blue Squadron was over there. They got to that level where they are the top of the top. I don't care if you're at a tier 1 unit and they send another tier 1 unit over to take the most important mission in modern history. How would you feel? Blue Squadron was the most professional group of dudes. Even what they might have said something behind our backs. They didn't say anything to us. They welcomed us with open arms. We launched from there in stealth bursts to kill bin Laden. We managed to put a helicopter in the front yard. Blue Squadron came in a Chinook, in a 47, which is not as stealth as the ones we were on. So, these guys hung it out there. And so did the aircrew, so did the pilots. That says something about these guys. That's incredible. But anyway, that's the professional jealousy. But that's what we did. But for someone now he said outlandish shit the entire time. It doesn't stop there. Again, the guy I'm talking about, I do want to be clear about this. Still probably in my top 5 as far as operators, definitely top 10. I'm not trying to brag here, but one of the dudes that could outshoot most of, I'm not going to say just me, but he did beat me. I beat him a couple times. There was one other dude who was on the mission that I think consistently outshot both of us, and you know who you are. And you were there for sure. Again, I'm not big into naming names of people who don't want their names out there. But having said that, you're always welcome on this podcast. Any one of you. I get people do drop names once in a while. I have a tendency to delete a lot of comments because I don't want if they don't want their names out there, I don't want their names out there. And I've done stuff before where I shouldn't have tweeted this or shouldn't have said that. And that's one of those things where, again, thinking I'm funny and trying to put stuff out on social media for entertainment, but like you tweet something and then you reread it and you're like, it's like a text. And I give this advice too. It's okay to type that mean text. Just don't hit send for 24 hours. See if it's still funny. If it's not, deleted tweets. I delete tweets. I delete posts on X all the time. But like I mentioned, thank God there's jerk-offs out there with no military experience that can take a screenshot and write a nice article about it. Good job, stupid. But but one of the other things too that I noticed is I think this is a real guy. He said something about imagine getting up every day and knowing you lied about Neptune Spear, and he had pictures of him in the gym. Looks like a pretty healthy dude, man. Kick ass. Like in shape. I talked about, whatever. But and I said, imagine being so dumb that you don't know it's Neptune's spear, not Neptune Spear. And he responded, because he obviously did a little quick AI search and said, no, stupid, it is Neptune's spear. And what do you say to that? Again, it's knowing something that you know, and you just can't convince useful idiots. However, here's a really good book that I recommend you getting. I'm not going to read all of it because I don't want to ruin it, but it was written by Admiral William H. McRaven, Bill McRaven, who was the commander of Joint Special Operation Command, JSOC, SEAL Team 6 guy. He's a retired admiral. He gave a speech called Make Your Bed, which Make Your Bed is a speech, and I'm a public speaker. I give pretty good speech. I think they're really good. And that was the first time I heard a speech, again, professional jealousy, like, son of a bitch, I wish I would have written that. Probably the best speech ever given. Go YouTube, Admiral Bill McRaven, Make Your Bed. But, that's the shit I put up with online. No, stupid, it's Neptune. I'm going to read, this is chapter 17, at an undisclosed location, April 2011, the title is Neptune's Spear. I'm going to read the first little part of it. It says, here's how it starts. With an apostrophe. I'm sorry, sir, what? With an apostrophe, I said. It's Neptune's Spear with an apostrophe. The young lieutenant commander looked at me with some surprise. Sir, the computer doesn't generate names that have an apostrophe. Of course it doesn't. He smiled and nodded. I like it. Picking up a magic marker, he wrote on the whiteboard in large letters, Operation Neptune's Spear. Brief back to the chairman, which I'm assuming is pretty important. As silly as it was, I had actually paid some thought to the name. I wanted a name that would symbolize the SEAL Assault Force's maritime roots, that would represent justice in the form of the sea god's three-pronged lance, a name that would resonate with a team of hand-picked operators, a name that people might remember if the mission went well and would hopefully forget if it went south. In my office at Fort Bragg, there was a small bronze statue which I had purchased in a curio store in Venice years before. It was the Greek god Poseidon riding on a seahorse. Gives me an idea for a painting I might have made of myself. Poseidon had a long-shafted trident spear in his grasp, and the seahorse was rearing, his two legs kicking in the front with a tail flowing behind, ready to attack. I didn't normally go in for this kind of symbolism. It seemed ridiculous, but the statue caught my eye, and I had to admit it was cool. So when the time came to attach a name to our planned operation, I thought back to the bronze figure. I knew I couldn't call it Poseidon's Trident. Okay, I might have to open a bar now. I knew I couldn't call it Poseidon's Trident because if the mission failed, everyone of my generation would remember the disaster film, The Poseidon Adventure. And that would be the mission's legacy. Couldn't have that. So Neptune's spear it was, with an apostrophe. Now I need to take a second to tell you about it. Sponsor of the show, Superpower. After almost 17 years in the military, being shot up with every vaccination imaginable and living in shitholes. You know, speaking of vaccines, you've been hit with a couple too. I'm excited to finally get the upkeep and rework that my body needs. We've all been there. Eventually get in to see your doctor, you know, get the blood drawn and wait for God knows how long just to hear everything's good. You know, you need to work out and more, drink more water, less booze. That's usually it. There's no breakdown of your hormones, no insight on inflammation or toxins. Your lack of vitamins and your crappy eating habits, you know, no nutrients, just vague advice, a little pat on the back. It's like big pharma and hospitals. They get more money to keep you unwell. But Superpower Health is a completely different experience. It's a revolutionary new kind of preventive care, more comprehensive, more actionable, and you can do it all from the comfort of your own home. Here's how it works. Twice a year, Superpower sends a licensed professional right to your door to collect a comprehensive lab panel, or you can just visit a nearby lab. Superpower measures over 100 biomarkers, heart, liver, thyroid, hormones, metabolism, vitamin, even mineral levels. They get you a personalized action plan based on your results, all beautifully laid out on their app, plus access to your own private medical team to help guide you. It's the same level of testing and insight that pro athletes get, but at a price that actually makes sense for you. Stop just hoping you'll live a long life, a long, healthy life. Start taking action. For a limited time, our listeners get $50 off when they use code THEOPERATOR at superpower.com. Superpower stays with you from your initial assessment on. It tracks your results for life, with each new test building on the last while painting a picture of your progress year after year. Superpower is here to make proactive healthcare a reality and accessible to everyone, and believes that everybody has the potential to live to be 100 years old. I'm going to read that silently again for myself. For a limited time, our listeners are getting $50 off an annual Superpower membership by using code THEOPERATOR at checkout. Just go over to superpower.com, use code THEOPERATOR to get our exclusive discount, to get your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower. So go over again to superpower.com, use code THEOPERATOR. When they ask you where you heard about them, tell them the operator sent you. So yeah, Neptune's spear, who was actually, so that's a Roman god, and I think he was either related to a cousin of Poseidon, so or whatever. But yeah, he was also the patron of Neptune was the patron of horse racing. Neptunus Equestris, which is kind of cool. So what I got to get back to, in the book 2 Sea Stories that I mentioned, make sure you read page 320 if you're into history, because the commander of the mission names the guy that killed bin Laden by name. Pretty interesting. But anyway, so what I'm saying is when we go back to the new thing is it's a capture mission after bin Laden. Here's a good example of we were in 2007. My commander, again, I'm not going to mention his name even though he's public. I do want to get him on the podcast. Phenomenal guy from Red Squadron. He led us in Afghanistan in 2007 because he agreed that he would work under the Delta Force colonel, which is really good because at that level, especially with the competition, a lot of SEAL Team 6 guys would not agree to that. A lot of Delta guys would not agree to work for SEAL Team 6, even though we're both under JSOC, because the majority of our guys went to Afghanistan. This is 2007 because Admiral Scott Moore, who's the commanding officer of SEAL Team 6, just authorized us to kill Taliban. If you can believe that, before we were allowed to kill them if we saw them, but we couldn't target the Taliban. I don't know why, because people make dumb decisions sometimes, I guess. It's like someone with a small penis said we're not allowed to kill the Taliban because people with small penises say dumb shit. But anyway, we took a small group to Iraq to hunt Al-Qaeda. But working for Delta is great because what had happened is JSOC, what they decided to do, this is when President Bush was still around, they needed to start killing the Sunni insurgents, which Al-Qaeda is Sunni. Granted, other guys were fighting the Shia in Sadr City, stuff like that, because there are bad people everywhere. But because these Sunnis were coming in, the Al-Qaeda guys, but they're terrorizing Sunni families, we could go in there and target them. And so everybody gets their fill. The way it was broken up, we had task forces. So we call them TF. So we were TF Blue, Delta was TF Green, and then the SAS were TF Night. And we had some SBS, Special Boat Service guys there with us. And Delta, I mentioned this last week. I didn't need to mention it last week because they were doing it, had the best job there. The vehicle interdictions. I got a video too of a good vehicle interdiction in Afghanistan, what we were doing. I'll release that at some point. I got to figure out all this technical bullshit. But they would do the VIs and we would sit back. What they did do, what was really cool, especially in a JSOC, Joint Operations Command, a JSOC JOC, they had like these $5,000 cappuccino machines because if you're not going to fight a war, you should get some coffee. But we were back there sipping on that. We'd watch Delta do the VIs all day long, jealous as shit because those are just cool. They did an awesome job. And TF-160's flying them, so I don't give a shit who you are. If TF-160's flying you, you are going to probably succeed because that's what they do. So they did a VI one day. I'm explaining why we don't capture. They did a VI one day, huge convoy, and they didn't get everyone. They kind of split up. Delta followed a group of vehicles. Another vehicle split somewhere else. But ISR, again, the birds up top were watching them. They went to a group of like 3 houses somewhere, and we're sitting there, and the colonel said, all right, spin up TF Blue. They're going to go there. So we're going to go get our shit, which is awesome. Cool. We know bad guys are in there. We're going to fly to the Y, which, the X is on the house. The Y is right near it. Shady. I don't recommend that, especially when there's bad guys in the daytime because helicopters make noise. And that wakes everyone up, and they have a tendency to shoot at the helicopters because they don't have them. They know we're us. But, yeah, TF Blue spin up. You're going to go to those houses. And someone in the back, because a Joint Operations Command, or Center, whatever the fuck it is, JOC, TOC, Tactical Operations Center, JOC, Joint is, whatever. Someone in the back, when he said spin up TF Blue, said, well, we know there's bad guys in the house. Why don't you just go kinetic? Meaning just drop bombs in the house. And this SAS guy from TF Night goes, hey, mate, they're sending TF Blue. It's just like going kinetic, meaning everyone's going to die. And the colonel from Delta goes, hey, bring us at least one. So we went, and we brought one back. The rest of them died. It was crazy. But that's how that went. We don't go on capture missions. If we capture guys, it's for intel or whatever, or because we captured him because we had extra room for his dialysis machine and whatnot. But we got to get into other stuff here right now because it involves the military, it involves the National Guard, because I don't know if you know this, the crime in D.C. has gotten out of control. And it's going to get politicized, which I don't understand at all. Because you would think, especially with politicians who live there, having been mugged near the Capitol, you would think they want safety, they want security. They would rather have politics. Because especially Democrats right now would much rather have their party in power than safety for the constituents of D.C. Because there's no representatives from D.C. because it's a federal district. It's not a state, right? So they don't have senators. They don't have. They're not a state. So Trump federalizes law enforcement in D.C. under Section 740 of the D.C. Home Rules Act. That is for special conditions of an emergency nature. So this is about safety and security. So 800 National Guard guys and 120 FBI agents, they're going into D.C. and they're going to assist local law enforcement who are now under federal guidance because it's a federal district. But it's going to get made political. They're going to say Trump's a dictator. No, he's got 30 days total to federalize law enforcement, and then it needs an act of Congress. They're not going to tell you that because they're going to say, we said he was going to be a dictator and he's a fascist, because that's all they say. Why wouldn't progressives want this? Why wouldn't everybody want this? And they say crime is down in D.C. Down from what? From the murder rate in 2023? Super duper. It's like this shit barely tastes like shit. Have another bite. And they're saying that Trump is everything. Trump is just doing this to get him off the Epstein story. That's another one, too. Holy shit, do we want to know the Epstein list? I mean, I want everyone to know about it. I got this weird conspiracy theory that we're going to find out shit we didn't want to know, because who was Epstein really working for? Ooh, intel agencies? What really happened? It doesn't seem like everyone that gets close to the Epstein file says they're going to release it, and they see it, they're like, nope, I don't think the American public's ready for that. Dan Bongino, who is a very hardcore, smart dude who's got cast iron stomach, can tolerate anything, said this shook him to his core because he's seen it. But they get on TV. A lot of those people have never seen a camera they didn't like, and they're like, crime is down. Chicago, Compton, and LA have lower murder rates than DC. Washington, D.C.'s murder rate is 10 times higher than Havana. It's twice as high as Mexico City. The murder rate in Washington, D.C. is 3 times higher than Islamabad. That's in Pakistan. For all you haters out there that know everything about the world, that know everything about the Bin Laden raid, everything that's going on in Ukraine and Israel with Hamas, everything about disarming Hezbollah and what happened in Iraq, I have a question before we start arguing. Do you have a passport? If no, shut the fuck up. If so, have you been there? Probably not. Anyway, it is safer to walk around Baghdad right now. I'm not doing it. I'm avoiding a lot of the Middle East. When I need to see a pyramid, I'm going to go to the Luxor in Vegas, baby, because you can't win if you don't play. But and what they're saying is it's just teens. It's just teens. It's groups of teens. These teens are getting pretty violent. And the teens they know they can't be touched because of the ridiculous laws that are there. And the laws, again, like the road to hell, paved with good intentions, but put yourself, I grew up in Butte, Montana, okay? And it's nothing like some places in D.C. I mentioned like Chicago or L.A. There's bad neighborhoods. But growing up as a 17-year-old with no record, I didn't have a record yet. I had to wait till way after the Navy. But if I knew, like at 17, I could do anything I wanted and I wouldn't get in trouble, if you shoot someone, you don't even get, you get probation and yoga pretty much. But if I knew nothing would happen, granted, we stole pumpkins on Halloween, and I remember getting nailed by a cop. Not getting nailed by a cop. I didn't go to jail. I got yelled at by a cop, but that was still scary. But imagine this. I can't get in trouble. Like the mayor of here's how they spin it. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, she said that reducing crime is a threat to democracy. And now even with a lot of the redistricting, which the Republicans are doing in Texas, it gets done everywhere. And they do it all over the place. If you see the percentage, I don't want to get political, of the number of Republicans, even in the People's Republic of Massachusetts, compared to the representatives in D.C., it's all because of the way they redistrict. And then now the Republicans are doing it in Texas because they can. And it's just so funny because they always say that, the Republicans are cheating. And it's every time I hear them say the Republicans are cheating, I can't help but think of Joe Biden. He got over 81 million votes, didn't he? We don't talk about that at all because it was a free and fair election. My ass. But like Donald Trump was saying too, with D.C., it's a crime thing. It's got to be cleaned up. A lot of the cities need to be cleaned up. And the analogy that he said he got from his father was when you're walking into a restaurant, if the door of the restaurant is dirty, don't go in. Because the kitchen is going to be dirty too. If what you're going to see is dirty, what's the rest of it going to look like that you can't see? So our capital is dirty, and if the capital is dirty, that means the whole country is dirty. The broken window theory that Rudy Giuliani said was that he was the mayor of New York. If you're in a place where the windows of businesses are broken, that means the community doesn't care. Look at San Francisco. Look at the businesses leaving. In-N-Out left somewhere near there in Northern California just because of the crime. And that's what it's telling you. Felony assault in D.C. is no longer considered a violent crime. Of course, the crime rate is going to go down if you're reporting like this. A female anchor at ABC, and believe me, they're with the whole mostly peaceful protest while the whole city's burning behind you. In the past 6 months, she said that 2 people were shot. One died right near where they filmed their show. She was jumped 2 blocks away, and her co-worker's car was stolen. Sounds pretty safe. But this is an improvement from 2023. I mean, that year sucked and it was normal. And then there's the Free DC movement. You see those people out there, and they're saying, yeah, get out your pots and pans and make noise so your neighbors, you're a crazy person, and they're paid. But I mean, here's the question too. It's almost like you shouldn't get mad at the politicians that are there because they're scumbags. Why do people keep reelecting them? They keep doing it, and it's almost on purpose. I mean, what if this turns around? Let's say, for example, like there's like 8 conflicts around the world right now that have been kind of overturned just because of the art of the deal, stuff like that. Trump's probably not going to get a Nobel Peace Prize, but he should. But what if he turns it around and the locals see that? I mean, could it work? Maybe. I mean, I hope so. I don't give it. I'm a registered independent. I don't give it. I hate 2-party politics, but. Got 30 days to federalize law enforcement, and then it's an act of Congress. Will the votes change if it works? Well, I mean, what if your life's changed? What if you can go outside after dark? I mean, who doesn't want to be safe? 50% of the carjackings in D.C. are done by people under the age of 18. And, you know, again, a sad truth about some of these neighborhoods is you don't have a choice a lot of times to join some of the gangs, and the older gang members are smart enough to know send your younger guys out there and do it. Carjacking in Washington, D.C. is up 540% in the last 5 years. I mean, that's, you know, and they're spending more money per student than anywhere in the nation. So that doesn't work, throwing money. There's your Department of Education. People are in on it. And again, from the Department of Education, teachers' unions, other kinds of unions, up to politics, they're not there for you. They're there for themselves, for personal power. People are addicted to power. Speaking of unions, the Metropolitan Police Department Union Chairman Greg Pemberton on Monday endorsed President Trump, his move to assume federal control of the MPD and deploy National Guard to the nation's capital as part of an effort to crack down on crime and homelessness, both of them out of control. And it's a threat to democracy. So what are they going to say now? It's a threat. Why do you think people in D.C. are saying it's a threat to democracy? Well, because we should be a state because they shouldn't be able to federalize the district. It's a federal district named after the first president of the United States. And actually, the District of Columbia had something to do with the feminine side of it. I think it's cool. Should have looked it up. I'm going off my memory, so I'm probably, I don't know. I'm sure I'll get called out. But again, all about policy and redistricting. What happens if D.C. becomes a state? 2 more Democrats, unless if the vote changes because it gets safe. And you're not going to flip D.C. red, but if it does, Democrats are going to shut the fuck up about turning it into a state, and they'll just concentrate on Puerto Rico, I guess. But I mean, again, it's crazy when you hear them talk about lying. 81,283,501 votes for Joe Biden. Then they lied for 4 years, telling you that his brain wasn't tapioca pudding. But that's where we're at now. But, I mean, there's other stuff coming, too. I mean, we're trying to change the way things go. The border is secured, but not, you know, we had an issue with fentanyl. Fentanyl killing more people in this country than anything else being smuggled through the border. So now they have authorized the use of military force to take out the gangs that are supplying them, still trying to bring them in. I was asked on my at Mikuya something about the president of Venezuela and how there's a bounty on his head. So we're going to be targeting MS-13 and Tren Aruag. What the hell? How do you say that again? I wrote it down. You know the one. I'll bring it up later because I have it in my notes somewhere. But the president of this is my favorite name, the president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum. Doesn't sound like she's from Mexico. She almost sounds like she's from somewhere else. But President of Mexico said no U.S. invasion to take out the cartels. So it's not. We're not invading Mexico. Don't be surprised if there's a drone strike or two. You see the drone warfare all over the place, but I assure you our drones are a lot better. But it's going to happen in Venezuela and Mexico. Nicolas Maduro, the president there, Aragua. I can't say it. I don't speak Spanish. I'll figure it out. I'll get it to you. But anyway, you're going to see strikes there. Maduro's on the list because of narco trafficking, so he's a terrorist. The bounty's up to $50 million, which is a lot of money. Still very good even when they take taxes out. But look at Venezuela. It was an oil-rich country. 1915 is when the first oil rigs were built there, and then the boom came in 1922. And the boom was a combination of relatively free economy, an immigration system that attracted and assimilated laborers, and they were from Italy, Portugal, and Spain, and a system of strong property rights. I mean, that's stuff that all the communists are against, and allowed Venezuela to experience unprecedented levels of economic development from the 1940s up to the 1970s. It had the fourth largest GDP per capita. And there was a generation of intellectuals and student activists that aimed to fully nationalize Venezuela's petroleum sector. So we're going to nationalize it and use the petroleum rents to establish a welfare state of sorts. So the political figures firmly believe that for Venezuela to become a truly independent country and free from the influence of foreign interests, the government must have complete dominion over the oil sector. Let's put the government completely in charge of this. I'm sure it will run just as smooth as the DMV. Under this premise, a nationalized oil industry would finance cheap gasoline, free education at all levels, and, carry an array of other services. I don't know, public services like free housing, free this, free everything. And this rhetoric strongly resonated among lower and middle classes, which it sounds good, but you got to do your research. And that formed the bulk of the party, Action Democrática, who said I can't speak Spanish, and the voter base for years to come. At its core, the vision of economic organization assumed that the government must manage the economy through central planning. Sounds awesome. Oil would be produced, managed, and administered by the state, while the government would try to phase out the private sector. Do you see that happening? So now we have, like I said, Nicolas Maduro, who won the election. Hugo Chavez was the guy that destroyed it by promising all the free shit, overspending, not getting the revenue. He was elected in 2013, and then 2018, it was sketch. So was this one. 2024, he's there. The first Trump administration put a $15 million bounty on Maduro in 2020 when he was indicted on federal drug charges, including narco-terrorism and conspiracy to import cocaine. It increased to $25 million during Biden's term, which is the same that bin Laden had. I'm assuming that check got lost in the mail, and now it's up to $50 million. And the Pambody said the Justice Department has seized, so they're making a move, more than $700 million in assets linked to Maduro. That's a lot of money for a politician. That's how politicians work. He's got more money than Nancy Pelosi and her kick-ass stock picker husband, Paulie P. Also, they took 2 private jets, and nearly 7 tons of seized cocaine had been traced directly to Maduro. So that's why they're on him. That is so funny. I love when they have a seizure like that, a nice operation. They're like, well, we seized 7 tons of cocaine when it should have been, we seized about 6.5 tons of cocaine. I'm kidding. Now I need to tell you about Qualia Senolytic, a sponsor of our show, and I've talked about them before because, just like me, you're the same. We're not getting any younger. Lower back, knees, picking up my baby, taking her to the ocean, the damn gym, if I get there, at least the first few days back. You got to remember that the toilet doesn't care that yesterday was legs day. But I'm talking again about Qualia Senolytic. It's the first of its kind formula designed to help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells. I believe one of the best aging breakthroughs of the last decade is Qualia Senolytic, and here is why. Senolytics are a science field that is revolutionizing human aging. A big culprit behind that middle-aged feeling can be senescent cells that are called zombie cells that linger in your body after their useful function is over. They're wasting your energy and your resources. So I'll break it down. The accumulation of zombie cells can lead to less energy, slower recovery from workouts, joint discomfort, basically feeling old. Qualia Senolytic is groundbreaking, clinically tested supplement with 9 vegan plant-derived compounds that help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells, helping you feel years younger in just months. And here's how it works. You take it just 2 days a month, helping your body naturally eliminate these zombie cells that are doing you no good to age better at the cellular level. And Qualia's breakthrough formula is vegan, non-GMO, and tested by leading scientists. Since I started taking Qualia Senolytic, I wake up fired up, probably earlier than I should, but it doesn't matter because I feel so good. I have more energy, not as sore as I normally am, even when I was a young SEAL. I have a ton more energy, and I'm excited about life again. You know, as we age, these senescent cells, the zombie cells are getting in there, and you got to get rid of them. You know what makes this brand unique is fully transparent formulas, no proprietary ingredients, formulas created by top scientists and MDs, science-backed formulas backed with hundreds of research citations, powerful results, thousands of real life-changing reviews, over 6 years and counting. You got to go read that website. Experience the science of feeling younger. Go to qualialife.com/theoperator for up to 50% off your purchase, and use code theoperator for an additional 15%. That's qualialife.com, QUALIALIFE.com/theoperator for an extra 15% off your purchase. The older you is going to thank you. And we want to thank Qualia for sponsoring the show. If they ask, tell them the operator sent you there. What are the other things being talked about? There's a meeting on Friday in Alaska. Vladimir Putin's going to go meet with Donald Trump to talk about Ukraine, obviously. I'm not sure Zelensky's invited. He should be there. Trump was kind of cool about it, saying that it's not his to negotiate. He's going to go there face-to-face in Alaska, which is a power move on someone's part. And there's arguments about which power move is it, because we bought Alaska from Russia at some point, but what Vladimir Putin is doing right now is he's bypassing Europe. But so's Trump. Kind of like, hey, EU and NATO, I don't really need you. I'll go do this. He's admitting he's not going to negotiate himself. He's like, I don't need you. Let me just do it, and I will pass the word to you. And I think he really means it. There are people out there saying that Vladimir Putin, who's former KGB, a psychopath, which he is, a serial killer. I think he's one of the richest guys in the world. He's got a lot of money up there. They're saying he's playing it that way so he can prove that whatever. And then you got people saying Putin's not going to get arrested as soon as he gets there, but Zelensky won't be there. It's not going to be forced. It's interesting to see. I don't think it's a problem meeting face-to-face with people and talking it through. But that should be good to see. And then I do need to bring up Zoran Mamdani, who won the primary in New York for the next mayor. He's a Marxist communist and he's a jihadi. He's admitted it. It's a problem. He's going around with Elizabeth Warren. You know who I'm talking about, a senator. And she's all about it too because she's a crazy person. You can tell by her voice. She got all her things by saying she's Native American because, she looks Native to me. But they're doing these goofy things where they're giggling and laughing and rolling around and pretending they're crying because they're laughing so hard. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren strikes me as someone you can sit down and really laugh with. Anyway, and they're laughing, just saying, I do this to people. It's always so fun with me. It's like, remember the whole joy. It's just joy. Hey, Democrats, you are not happy. Start acting happy. But yeah, he's this dude's talking about stabilizing rent and he's living in a rent stabilized apartment, which he shouldn't because he's worth a lot of money. So is his wife. He's talking about, getting away from private property. He owns a lot of property over in Congo. He has weddings there. He travels all the time. A lot of money. Oh, and here's what's crazy about New York. Listen up, please. He's got land in Congo, and they are extremely anti-LGBTQ. Extremely. So someone call him out on that. And calling for global intifada, which means you're on the side of Al-Qaeda. This is happening there. It's happening in D.C. They both got attacked on 9/11 there. So what's that, 24 years later? 24 years after 9/11, it's kind of disheartening to see the voters. They just forgot to never forget. But that's there. Who knows? And I'm to the point now. It's like, New York, you vote this guy in, you might see what happens. Maybe you'll love it if you're a criminal. Maybe you'll love it if you're homeless. But enough of that depressing stuff. I do want to get into this day in history for August 13th because there's a lot of stuff there. Very, very interesting and a lot of fun too. This one got me down a rabbit hole. August 13th, 1898 was the capture of Manila in the Philippines. It's a significant event during the Spanish-American War, which is some pretty good history stuff too, which in a couple years you might not get to know this with AI taking over. And always got to ask people, the history was written by the victors. You got to wonder, when they're burning books, what are they burning? Again, conspiracy theories. I don't really believe in dinosaurs anymore. I'm actually saying they weren't dinosaurs. Those were dragons. Because like the Chinese calendar, am I wrong on this? Every animal actually exists except a dragon. Is just, did they overlook that, or did we actually have dragons? Maybe the wings burn. And a narwhal. We got narwhals, but people think a unicorn is unbelievable. A mermaid's unbelievable. We got a platypus. A mammal that lays egg has a beaver tail and a duck's bill, but a horse with a horn's unbelievable. Anyway, Spanish-American War. On the capture of Manila was August 13th, 1898, when American forces, along with Filipino revolutionaries, took control of the city of Manila from Spanish forces, who were colonizing the Philippines for a long, long time. 300 years worth of colonization. Those fuckers. I guess we're not the only ones that colonized, but the Spanish-American War began around 1898, primarily due to tensions over Cuba. Same names. However, the United States also had interest in the Philippines, either side, which was a Spanish colony. So on May 1st, 1898, the Battle of Manila Bay saw the U.S. Asiatic Squadron, commanded by Commodore George Dewey, decisively defeat the Spanish fleet. This victory paved the way for the subsequent assault on Manila. And the land campaign, following the naval victory, American troops, supported again by Filipino forces, began a campaign to capture Manila. The Filipino forces have been fighting for independence from Spain since 1896. Now the mock battle, because you can't believe everything that you read or see. On August 13th, today, except a long time ago, a staged mock battle took place as both American and Spanish commanders had agreed to minimize casualties. What are your thoughts on that too? I mean, killing fewer people, senior officers might not get promoted. Spanish forces surrendered to the Americans, but not to the Filipino forces, which led to some tensions. In the aftermath, the capture of Manila led to the Treaty of Paris in December of 1898, where Spain seceded the Philippines to the United States for $20 million. And according to Democrats, that's $2 million more than Mar-a-Lago is worth. However, this led to the Philippine-American War. Philippine-American War, you might not even heard of that. That's from 1899 to 1902. Filipino revolutionaries continued their fight for independence, but this time it was against their American rulers. Out of the freezer into the oven, more people just colonizing. And the Filipino-American War was an armed conflict, obviously, between the First Philippine Republic and the United States that lasted from February 4th, 1899 to July 2nd, 1902, and it arose from the struggle of the Philippines for independence following the end of the Spanish-American War in 1898. After the Spanish-American War, Treaty of Paris, and they'd been fighting, and they're kind of pissed off. So tensions escalated. Fighting broke out in 1899 in February when American sentries and Filipino soldiers exchanged fire on the outskirts of Manila. The war pitted the United States military against the forces of the First Philippine Republic, and Filipino forces included both regular soldiers and guerrilla fighters. So that's like you're dealing with the regulars and then the VC. And the U.S. had superior technology and resources, which allowed them to capture key cities and defeat the conventional forces. However, the conflict evolved into a prolonged guerrilla war with Filipino fighters engaged in hit-and-run tactics. It's almost like that happens over and over and over everywhere we go. The war was marked by brutal tactics on both sides, including the use of concentration camps by the U.S. and the execution of prisoners. Never good. And I'm going to mispronounce this, but the Balangiga massacre, sorry about that, should have looked that up, and the subsequent retaliation actions by the U.S. forces are particularly infamous. I got to look that up for sure. I apologize for not having it here. But the war officially ended July 2nd, 1902, when President Teddy Roosevelt declared it over. However, resistance continued till 1913, or I'm sure there's people still pissed off. There are even places in Hawaii that you really shouldn't go. Not saying we're at war with Hawaii. Sorry about that for all my friends over there. The war resulted in significant loss, with estimated Filipino deaths ranging from 200,000 to over 1 million. Combat, disease, famine over there, and American casualties significantly lower, about 4,200. But the Philippines became a U.S. territory, later a Commonwealth, eventually gaining full independence on July 4th, 1946. And involved in around here, I got to bring up General Arthur MacArthur, just because I like to say that. I was digging into the Manila thing, and then I got into some of these. Arthur MacArthur, obviously the father of Douglas MacArthur, prominent U.S. Army officer, best known for his service in the American Civil War and the Spanish-American War and in the Philippine-American War. He was born in Massachusetts, started serving, at 17 years old in the Civil War, which is nuts to think about how, time flies, but it's a large planet, but it's a small world. But in the Civil War, he actually earned the Medal of Honor for bravery at the Battle of Missionary Ridge in 1863. There was no YouTube around then, but he won the Medal of Honor, was awarded the Medal of Honor. And so I'm going to need some YouTubers to fact check the shit out of that one. But the Battle at Missionary Ridge, where he was awarded the Medal of Honor, was significant during the Civil War. As part of, this is 1863. Chattanooga campaign in Tennessee was a decisive Union victory that helped break the Confederate siege of Chattanooga and solidified the Union control of the region. After the defeat, the Union forces under Major General Rosecrans were besieged in Chattanooga by Confederate General Braxton Bragg. I'm bringing him up for a reason. Braxton Bragg's Army of Tennessee, and the Union Army faced supply shortages, and the situation was dire. Major General Ulysses S. Grant, common names, took command in October 1863, replacing Rosecrans. He was supported by General Sherman and George H. Thomas. Braxton Bragg's forces held strong defensive positions on Missionary Ridge, a long ridge overlooking Chattanooga, as well as Lookout Mountain and other key points. On November 25th, after Union forces captured Lookout Mountain the previous day, Grant ordered a frontal assault on Missionary Ridge. The plan was for Union troops to take the rifle pits at the base of the ridge and hold position. However, Union soldiers, particularly those under Thomas's command, exceeded orders and charged up the ridge without authorization, driven by momentum and poor Confederate defensive. And the outcome, the defensive coordination was shitty, and the outcome was Union troops broke through the Confederate lines, forcing Bragg's army to retreat in disarray. The victory lifted the siege of Chattanooga and gave the Union a strategic base to launch further campaigns into the Deep South, into Sherman's Atlanta campaign in 1864. And Union losses were around 5,800, 6,600 from the Confederate side, with many captured. This battle showcased leadership and boosted reputation for General Grant, paving the way for an appointment to General-in-Chief of the Union Army in 1864. It marked a turning point of the Western Theater, weakening the Confederate hold on Tennessee and the gateway to the Deep South. The unexpected charge up Missionary Ridge became a legendary moment, highlighting the initiative of Union shoulders. MacArthur rose through the ranks, Medal of Honor, becoming a career officer. Spanish-American War, he commanded in the Philippines, Philippine-American War, and served as military governor of the Philippines, overseeing U.S. efforts to establish control. And he was known for his strategic acumen and strict discipline, and he played a key role in shaping U.S. military policy in the region. And he was the father of Douglas MacArthur, obviously another very prominent general. And he retired as a lieutenant general, the highest ranking officer in the Army at the time, died in 1912 during a speech to veterans. So in there, though, for a reason, I mentioned Braxton Bragg, because there was a fort named Fort Bragg, named after Braxton Bragg. And the fort, it was established in 1918 in North Carolina and was named in honor of Braxton Bragg due to his earlier service in the Mexican-American War, despite his controversial side in the Civil War. The Democrats didn't like him because he fought for the Confederates, but the Confederates were what? Democrats. They don't like to tell you that. They also started the KKK. They rarely bring that up. But in 2023, thank goodness, it was renamed Fort Liberty. as part of a broader effort to remove Confederate names from history. Just erase the history and act like it never happened, because I'll be damned if we're doomed to repeat it, which we always do. Just get rid of the name. Fort Liberty, fine. But I've been a big believer in Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, all that stuff too. But the Trump administration renamed Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg in February of this year, 2025. The decision was announced by my friend Pete Hegseth, who was the Secretary of Defense. He signed a memorandum to restore the name, but this time, this is where it gets cool. You shouldn't have to do this, but this guy's even more of a badass. They named it after Private First Class Roland L. Bragg, a World War II veteran who served with distinction. Other than the original Braxton Bragg, he was at he stormed Normandy, Market Garden, Battle of the Bulge. So Roland Bragg was a member of the U.S. Army, like I said, 82nd Airborne, Normandy D-Day. Excuse me. He was awarded the Bronze Star with Valor and a Purple Heart for his service. After the war, he returned to the United States, lived a quiet life. He actually lived till 1998, which is badass. So he was awarded the Bronze Star with Valor during World War II. Those missions right there, getting a Bronze Star with Valor is crazy, but they were awarded then. You had to do a lot to get anything back then. The Bronze Star Medal is the United States decoration for heroic and meritorious achievement or service in a combat zone. It comes with a V. There's been a lot of talk about the Combat V device that indicates that the recipient displayed bravery or heroism in combat. Bronze Star with V. If you would like me to show you one, I have 4. But he was you know about D-Day, you know about storming the beaches, very, very brave. Not as commonly known as Market Garden, which was a military operation during World War II, launched by the Allies in September of 1944. It was a few months after D-Day. An ambitious plan to create a 64-mile salient into German-held territory in the Netherlands with the ultimate goal of bypassing the Siegfried Line and entering Germany to end the war by Christmas. Sounds good on paper. The Siegfried Line, also known as the West Wall, was a German defensive fortification built in the late 1930s, like they knew it was coming, along the western border of Germany, stretching from the Netherlands in the north to Switzerland. I was just over there. It's beautiful. In the south, they had the whole Alps thing to cover part of that too. And this is basically to avoid, people entering Germany from France in the years leading up to World War II. It consisted of bunkers, pillboxes, dragon's teeth, which that's an anti-tank thing, but I mean, just saying there's dragon's teeth. We talked about dragons. That sounds scary. Other fortifications, slow down and deter the enemy. And it was broken down into 2 parts. So it's Market Garden. Market was the largest airborne operation in history up to that point, with paratroopers and glider-borne troops, balls there, dropped behind enemy lines to secure key bridges and towns. The Garden was the ground assault, which involved British and Polish armored units advancing up the corridor to create. The corridor was created by the airborne troops. We're going to get some armor and stuff up there. It was initially successful, with the Allies capturing several bridges, but it ultimately failed to achieve its main objective of securing the bridge over the Rhine at Arnhem. The operation suffered several setbacks, including poor weather, which is a problem, communications issues is a problem, and stronger than anticipated German resistance. The failure to secure the bridge over the Rhine during Market Garden can be attributed to, like I said, intelligence and logistic failures, stuff that will happen in underestimating your enemy. And they weren't able to reinforce the airborne troops as quickly as they thought at the bridge. And it was a setback for the Allies, but it didn't prevent them from continuing their advance into Germany. They achieved it a few months later. Then Private First Class Bragg was at the Battle of the Bulge, which was actually a major German offensive launched towards the end of World War II, and it was December 16th, 1944 to January 25th, 1945. And if you've never been to Germany, that's very cold. And it was in the Ardennes forests, densely forested. It's in eastern Belgium, northeast France, and Luxembourg. It was the last major offensive on the Western Front and was intended to split the Allied forces by driving through the Ardennes, the forest, and recapturing Antwerp, which is a city there, obviously. and forcing the Allies to negotiate a peace treaty. That's kind of what they wanted at this point. We're losing. It caught the Allied forces by surprise, leading to initial German successes and a large bulge in the Allied lines, hence the name. However, the German forces faced, again, logistical challenges. We're seeing this. It's winter. The weather sucks. If anything bad can happen, it will. Murphy's going to show up. Lack of fuel, bad supplies. The Allies were able to regroup and counterattack. And key events in the battle include the siege of Bastogne. If you haven't seen Band of Brothers, that part about Bastogne, to hear those veterans actually talking about being there and watching that made is incredible. But they held out the German attack there until relieved by General George S. Patton's Third Army. And the German advance failed to reach the Mayus River. I hope I'm saying that right. But the Battle of the Bulge is one of the largest, bloodiest battles fought by the United States in the war. 19,000 American soldiers killed, tens of thousands wounded or captured. And that's just like stuff flying everywhere. Living in the foxhole. I mean, even Band of Brothers. This is what pisses me off about officers. It's freezing. They're breaking ice on one of those canteen cups so he can shave. Get over yourself. Grow a beard out. You're at the Battle of the Bulge. Patton will be here soon, and I'm sure he'll bring hot water and shaving cream. Germans also took heavy casualties, though, like 67,000 to 100,000 killed, wounded or captured. And it was a turning point in the war as it depleted their resources. So that's a lot of stuff there. The history, I just looked up the Siege of Manila. I got into that. I had to bring up Bragg because Fort Bragg is now renamed after a hero who didn't fight in the Civil War. But here, I want to get into more stuff about this day in history because it's a hell of a lot of fun to get into it. But I want to talk about, I got a buddy up in Butte, Montana right now who is going to be boxing. Butte, Montana, my buddy Tom Garland, I went to elementary school with him, known him my whole life. His son is Chase Garland. If you're in Montana and near Deer Lodge or not even near it, he's going to be boxing. 16-year-old dude fighting for new level boxing. Deer Lodge at the county fair on Thursday. I think it's great for guys to get their boys, especially girls as well, into boxing, into jiu-jitsu, into stuff like that. It's good for your positivity and humility, and boxing is just cool. Getting hit in the face, it also teaches you a lesson every now and then, which a lot of people, there should be like a button for keyboard warriors that you can hit and just punches them in the face. But we don't have that. So we're going to get into this day, August 13th. I was just looking up days in history. I like to do this. I found some really fun ones. On this day in 1907, speaking of New York, the first taxi cabs were introduced to the city. Awesome. And further north in 1914 on this day, the first bus line opens in Minnesota. It was called Greyhound. Not too bad. In 1923 on this day, the Turkish National Congress selects Mustafa Kemal Ataturk as the first president of Turkey. He's on their money now still. That's a good thing about when you get into social stuff too, printing too much money and inflation. I still love the movie The Rock, which, no, I do love that movie, but I also love Armageddon, both made by Michael Bay. So a lot of cool angles. Sorry, I brought that up. So I bring it up because the first time I saw Armageddon was in Turkey, my first platoon. I went to see a movie. It was pretty cool to see it in Turkey. It cost me 7 million lira, which I got out of an ATM. 7 million of anything to get into a movie tells you what happened when their currency devalued because they printed too much. I'm looking right at you, Washington, D.C. So on this day in 1926, I'm going to screw this up, though. Enrique Terrabocci of Argentina became the first to swim the English Channel from France to England, which took him. Swimming is difficult, but he did that. He knocked that bad boy out in 16 hours and 33 minutes. That's a long time to do anything. That's a long time to eat chocolate cake. But he swam that bitch in this day in 1926. In 1935, buckle up because roller derby was born when the Transcontinental Roller Derby, the roller derby at Chicago Coliseum. In 1942 on this day, the Manhattan Project commences under the direction of U.S. General Leslie Groves, the Manhattan Project, with the aim of developing the atom bomb. Good job on that. What could possibly go wrong with that? Anyway, and this is a cool one, too. In 1948, on August 13th, Satchel Paige, at age 42, pitched his first major league complete game as the Cleveland Indians, was it the Indians at the time? They defeated the White Sox 5-0 in Chicago. That's a good game. Satchel Paige was the first black pitcher in the major leagues, the 7th black player. He was also the first black pitcher to play in the World Series, which the Indians won in 1948. So they were the Cleveland Indians. Now they're the Guardians. What the fuck? Go back to the Indians, bring the Redskins back. You heard it here first. On this day in 1950, U.S. President Harry Truman gives military aid to the Vietnamese regime of Bao Dai. 1950, Harry Truman dropping 2 bombs wasn't enough. Dropping 2 nukes on Japan was not enough war for you. Let's just kick off the Vietnam bullshit. So, in 1965, back to reality, Elvis released Don't Be Cruel. And then in 1961, on August 13th, the construction of the Berlin Wall begins. On this day, in 1966, I got to read through this because, there was this thing called the Beatles Bonfire. It was an event that took place in 1966 around this time in Waycross, Georgia. It was a public burning of Beatles records and memorabilia organized by a group of people in response to John Lennon's controversial statement earlier that year where he claimed the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. It was taken out of context. He was sort of saying it's a shame that right now we're more popular than Jesus. He wasn't trying to be blasphemous, even though nowadays you get a fucking medal for that. It was taken out of context, sensationalized by the media. Weird. Led to widespread backlash, particularly in the Bible Belt, down here in the United States, southern United States. The bonfire, it was there, several other places with that comment. But the one in Longview, Texas, in 1966, on this day, the radio station KLUE was struck by lightning the day after holding the Beatles bonfire, knocking out an engineer and causing extensive damages. Don't mess with the Beatles. God didn't even break up the Beatles. That was a job that God left for Yoko Ono, which he knocked out perfectly. On this day, in 1991, this is just awesome. 1991, I think I would have been a freshman in high school. Rough House Records released Cypress Hill, the debut studio album by Cypress Hill. Double platinum status, over 2 million units sold. How I Could Just Kill a Man, Hand on the Pump, Ultraviolet Dream, Cypress fucking Hill. Download that. I get nothing out of it except kick-ass music. In 1993, on this date, the U.S. Court of Appeals rules that Congress must save all emails. They left out the State Department. So Hillary, once again, lucky. In 1996, Microsoft released Internet Explorer 3.0. On this day, 1997, this is kick-ass. The animated series South Park debuted on Comedy Central. I'm going to post a picture. They actually drew a couple pictures of me in them. One of them I can show, the other one I cannot. But Tim Montana has it. If you want to see that one, follow Tim Montana. I doubt he has the stones to show it to you. April 13th, 2006, Cleveland Indians again. First baseman Travis Hafner ties Don Mattingly's Major League Baseball record of 6 grand slams in a season. Wow, he hit that off Kansas City's Luke Hudson. 1 season? I was assuming a career. That's a lot of grand slams. 2008, Michael Phelps, American super swimmer, won 3 gold medals, all in world record time in 1 day at the Beijing Olympics. The 200-meter individual medley, I'm not going to go into the times, but the 200-meter butterfly and the 4x200 freestyle relay, that kicks ass. I'm sure we'll hear about Michael Phelps a little bit later. In 2014, August 13th, the Israeli and Palestinian ceasefire agreed to on August 8th is extended for another 120 hours to provide time for further negotiations. Okay, 11 years ago, they're still rocking and rolling. But in 2016, Michael Phelps, he ends his career in Rio, another Olympics, as part of the 4x100 meter medley relay. They won that, the Americans. That was a badass race. That was his 23rd gold medal. Michael Phelps. On this day, again, 2026, same year, New York Yankees rookie Tyler Austin and rookie Aaron Judge hit back-to-back home runs in their first Major League plate appearances. That's awesome. In an 8-4 win over the Tampa Bay Rays at Yankee Stadium. Go Yankees. And then 2020, new details about this is kick-ass. I'm spitting everywhere. The enormous terror crocodile, the size of a bus with teeth as big as bananas, that lived during the Cretaceous period, about 84 million years ago. It was in North America. That was published on this day in 2020. I'm calling bullshit on that because I'm still saying dragons. Dragons. Anyway, I wanted to get a little bit into some current events, some historical stuff. It is fun. Pick up Sea Stories and read that stuff if you'd like to. But remember, if you don't pay attention to the bots and take a deep breath and get outside, you're never out of the fight.